There we go. Okay, we're live now.
All right, it's 7:03 PM on February 28th. This is the zoning board meeting for the town of Maynard. We're meeting remotely. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first order of business is approving the minutes from January 24th and the minutes from February 9th. So I assume you guys have read those in detail.
Yes,
And do you have any corrections or comments?
I didn't.
I found one on the joint meeting with the planning board in that we did not get acknowledged that the zoning board opened the meeting. We voted to close it, but we didn't open it. So Bill is going to fix that.
Indeed.
But that was the only thing I saw.
Do we need to vote to amend it?
You can vote to approve as amended.
Oh, as amended. Okay. All right.
So somebody give me a motion or two or three.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the January 24th, 2022 meeting and the minutes of the February 9th, 2022 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals as amended.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
aye.
Jerry, are you in favor?
Yes,
Good.
All right, so we have, all right, thank you all. Hi, Jerry.
good evening. Our school building committee just ended, 2
Ah.
hours instead of 1 hour. Sorry.
Oh, we don't get invited anymore?
No, we don't
Oh.
let the public, we're just gonna build a new school and tell you how much it costs later on.
Well, I hope not.
Oh,
Is there
no.
gonna be any more? No,
What's-
Yeah, there will be. You'll see a lot more information coming out now. We voted
Okay.
on everything tonight. Yeah, we're good.
Oh, good. All right,
All
well,
right.
we have a full board, Mr. Chair.
Great. So now let's continue on with the public hearing portion. I'll read the announcement. It's 128 Public Parker Street. They're asking for a variance and special permit filed by Smart Cell Realty LLC, 135 Seaport Boulevard, Unit 1703, Boston, Mass. The subject property at 128 Parker Street is located within the single-family residential District 1. The petitioner is requesting a variance per Section 5 non-conforming use and structure of the zoning bylaws to grant relief to the existing non-compliant section of the structure dealing with a side yard encroachment, and a special permit per Section 5 of the zoning bylaws to allow reconstruction alteration of a non-compliant structure on a non-conforming lot that will allow construction of a second floor to the existing one-story dwelling. And so the petitioner, I assume that's you, James? Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. Yes, I'm here. Nice to meet you all.
So I apologize for not having my video on, but on the computer I'm using, it doesn't have that modern device called a camera. So, so go ahead. State your story here.
Yeah, so the recent purchaser of this property located on Parker Street. I bet all of you probably passed by once or twice recently with the new shopping center across the street. If you wouldn't mind, could I share my screen just to show everyone the existing front of the house?
Yep, I will give you the share screen, right? You should have it now, James.
Okay. Can everyone see the property that we're talking about, or
Not yet.
not yet? I'm sorry. Hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, now we got it.
Mhm.
So it's this small single family home, the address 128 Parker Street. Single family residential district. It's directly across from the shopping center now. The house was vacant for a little bit of a time now. It was in quite dilapidated shape. The roof was tarped. It's in substantial disrepair. When I bought the property, there's actually no interior walls, no sheetrock, no plaster. I guess there was a little bit of a backstory that there was a fire at some point. But the house is, it needs a complete remodel. Even with the, dwelling from the outside, it's in substantial disrepair. So this is the house. When you pass under this little carport, there's a detached 2-car garage in the back, and then a pretty natural flat piece of land. So, given the status of the foreclosure, the basically vacant interior walls, nothing inside the house. After meeting with the architects and things like that, they thought the house should really go up to put a second floor on it. It's just about 970 square feet. It's very small. In this house, after meeting with, the town of Maynard, it evidently has gone through a number of minor renovations. It started off as a small single-family house that they've kind of continually added on to without really doing it the right way. There's a section in the back, which is a non-compliant area that they've added on. It's a small segment of about roughly 150 square feet, which was not part of the existing footprint of the house. So the reason for the variance aspect is to try to clean up that issue of the portion that was added on the back in a non-compliant way. The other part of the house is the existing footprint. That's kind of why we've approached this with a double ask to try to tidy up some of the issues or some of the work that people did illegally, not asking for the proper permission. So the footprint of the house won't change. Basically, you'll just add a second floor onto it. The carport would be remaining. The side that is, I guess, the most non-compliant is this portion. Hopefully you can all see that like tree line section on the left. That side does not meet the setback. It's about 8 feet, 7 to 8 feet off the side there. It's a little bit of a tight space, but that's how it's always been. And it's going to kind of remain that way. So that's basically the existing dwelling. It doesn't have adequate frontage either. It looks like a pretty substantial amount of frontage on that main road, but it's short about 20-ish feet maybe. So we thought it would be best to keep the house in the exact same footprint. I thought about it many times to move the house way back from the street. And after kind of thinking about that, there's a number of neighbors on the adjacent side street that they would be impacted on. And by the house kind of remaining in the same place, I personally think it's the least detrimental way to make this property better. So, it's not only going to look good for the town, it's going to have new siding, new roof, new windows, everything will be new. It'll look like a brand new house. And I'll kind of show you now what the house will look like when it's done. Just be kind of like a little center entrance colonial, have like a modern appeal to it. The carport will remain the same and you'll pass in the back to the driveway. Just to show everyone on plan set, the portion that is non-compliantly added onto or done is basically this whole back square. It was like a little sunroom add-on thing that was never really like finished properly. So that's kind of the little section of the house in the back. It's a small, like I said, 150-ish square feet. And then this is how, the rendering will appear once the house is done. The dotted line is obviously the driveway, which leads into the back. There's a detached 2-car garage, and then this is the existing footprint of the house. So that's kind of the nature of the project. Like I said, we put a lot of effort and time into deciding whether or not to tear down the whole house and move it back. And we thought by doing it with this manner, it would be, the most approachable way to kind of keep the house closer to the street and leave the driveway in the remaining section and just kind of make the appearance better on, a main entryway in the town. So be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. This is again, the front rendering of the house, the side view on the side of the neighbors, not many windows because it's close to that sideline setback. And then this is the detached two-car garage, which is already there. This side is the rear of the property. Obviously, there's a garage right in the back of the house. Detached, will remain detached. And then this is just the carport entranceway to the back. All these papers we submitted with the application as well.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead, Rick.
I just want to clarify a few things that you have in your plans and in your presentation. On your plan, you're showing an area of the house of 1,894 square feet. That's not the footprint of the house. That's the floor area of the house. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So in your chart that you have for your zoning on your site plan and in the plans, I don't know if the board has your full package of plans or not. You're showing a lot coverage of 14.9%. And you're getting to that point by using both floors of your house, and that's not how we calculate coverage. So I just want to point out that it would suggest that on your site plan numbers under your zoning, that you're somehow exceeding our 15% coverage or close to the 15% coverage. And that isn't true at all. You're way short of that. This is an oversized lot for the S1 district. You also said that you're short frontage of about 20 feet. It's actually only 11 feet. You have almost 89 feet of frontage here in a district that only requires 100 feet. The other thing that you mentioned was the section that was non-compliant and that it was built possibly without permits by the previous owners. And if the board wouldn't mind indulging me, I'd like to give you a brief history of this project so you can fully understand it from a zoning standpoint.
Yeah,
Would
go
that be
ahead,
all
Rick.
right, Mr. Chair?
Yes, this is fine. I was going to ask some of the questions that you'll probably answer before I ask them.
Okay, this is a really interesting case, one that you probably rarely come across because the house was actually built after we adopted zoning bylaws. But it was a grandfathered lot. So at the time, if you had a grandfathered lot, you were not subject, you were also grandfathered relative to the other aspects of zoning. That is coverage, setbacks, ad infinitum. So when this house was built, this original footprint of this house, it was, I believe the building permit for it was around 1961. Is that right, James?
Yeah, around 1961. Yep.
And in 1952, you had already adopted the zoning setbacks and requirements for this parcel. But they were able to, rightfully so, build the house where they did. And with absolutely, no impact, no need for special permits or variances because it was a grandfathered lot. Subsequent to its construction, it became a protected non-conforming structure. At some point, they added on to this house. Now, it's not really clear in our records whether or not they did this with permits or not because of the ambiguity with which some of our applications are written or were done back then. So it may be that the building commissioner at the time thought that these people were able to extend this portion of the house in that small square in the back. But it not only increased the nonconformity by getting ever so closer to the side setback, but they had no right to do that because you just get one shot at that grandfathered lot deal. After that, you have to play by your zoning rules. So in order for them to have done that back then legally, they would have needed a variance. Even to continue the setback at an equidistance from the property line, they would have needed a special permit. So I don't really blame the building department back then. Zoning wasn't really, key on their thing. But this is a situation we find ourselves in, this tiny little section that can't be considered pre-existing non-conforming. It has to be considered non-compliant unless and until it's granted a variance to make it legal to move forward. There's nothing my office can do because of the statute of limitations to ever make them change the location of the structure, but to move forward and to clean up the legality of it, and for him to do what he wants to do, you would need a variance just on that portion of the property. And the special, in the initial reading of the hearing, I believe you said he needed a special permit to expand a pre-existing non-compliant structure, and it's actually the pre-existed non-conforming portion that the special permit is applying to. Any questions?
Do you have any information on the setback of the original structure where it approaches the side?
If you look at your staff report at Appendix A, that shows you the footprint of the house, and Julia has marked out the section that was built subsequent to the original building.
Yeah, well, what I'm looking for is, is a yellow highlight for that newer construction portion. And what I'm curious in is of the original footprint before that extra piece was put on, where that approaches the side yard setback. What is that? Is that like 9 feet, 9.5 feet, maybe 10 feet?
Hold on. If you hold on for a minute, I'll grab a scale.
Okay.
I'd say it's just over 9 feet.
So can we say then that the issue of the nonconformity is that it went from 9 feet to 8.7 feet?
No, because that little square would have had to have had a special permit back when it was constructed, and it never.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but that,
Right, yes. The difference between it having needed a special permit and a variance is that negligent amount of distance.
okay. All right. I think I understand. Anybody else on the board have questions for either Rick or the petitioner? Silence is killing me.
So the notice of the public hearing, is it incorrectly written then, or it's correct as written? Because Rick said what we're really going for is
Could you read it again?
Yeah, I'll read it again if I can find it. Yeah, the petitioner is requesting a variance per section 5 to grant relief to the existing non-compliant section of the structure, side yard encroachment, and a special permit per section 5 to allow reconstruction alteration of a non-compliant structure on a non-conforming lot that will allow construction of the second floor.
It's a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot.
Yeah, so we don't need the non-compliant in there, do we?
No.
Thank you. I was confused by the non-compliantedness.
Yeah, it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
All right, so Bill, please take note of that, because when we get down to whatever we're going to deliberate, we want to say it correctly.
Right. Pre-existing non-conforming structure.
For the special permit section, yeah.
Okay.
Because if we grant number one, the variance, then number two becomes only non-conforming. If we don't grant number one, then we don't need number two,
Got it.
I think.
I'd be more comfortable if you're granting the variance for the pre-existing non-compliant portion, that you grant a variance for that sliver of the second floor. Just because it's a little unclear as to whether a structure receiving a variance, which this one would have had to have received initially, can then be expanded by special permit or would have to be expanded by modification of the initial variance. And I believe it's the latter. So even in granting the variance for making the existing non-compliant portion allowed and legal, I think you still want to keep the language in for the variance for that second floor sliver, as negligible as it is.
Sure.
I'm gonna need your help with that one, Rick.
You just take good notes. We'll put it together later.
All right.
Wait, is that sliver addressed in the language?
That sliver is addressed by the variance.
Okay.
So Paige, John, any questions?
I just had a clarifying question. The staff report noted that the variance was needed to address non-compliance with the building coverage and the setback, but it sounds like the building coverage might not really be an issue. It was just calculated. There was an error in how it was calculated. So is the only issue really the side yard or the left side yard setback?
I
No,
believe so, yes.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
I'm good.
All right, Jerry, did you have anything?
No, I'm good. I like it.
All right. As far, so my understanding is on that side yard setback issue. I think we're good on that. Do we have any questions on extending it upwards for the second floor? And any questions with that? I love this silence.
Well, I assume later we're going to ask if any of the neighbors, right?
There's nobody in attendance.
Oh, brother. Mm-hmm.
And I'm good because when I drove by there, I saw some of the other houses look like this proposed plan anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a house just 2 houses down that was just completely renovated and put on the market. So
Yeah.
a vast improvement to the neighborhood.
What is the driveway and what is the driveway going to be?
It's asphalt right now and it's just gonna get repaved and regrade, repaved, stripped and repaved.
And uh, your plan shows trees, but are you actually planning on planting any trees?
Well, architects, they like to,
Yes, they do.
paint pretty pictures, but they have like a, a little outdoor patio, kind of like
Mhm.
little outdoor, Floridian style patio, which is nowhere near the neighbors. It's just a nice little connector piece to the garage.
Mhm.
There'd be a little man door, and say you got a little bluestone patio and maybe a grill, or, something to, maybe have a cigar in the lawn chair just to connect the garage and the house. So if you kind of come in cold wintry day, you step down, you're on the patio, and then you kind of go through the back door. The primary door that would be used in this house would be the back door.
Mhm.
You'd be hopefully parking in the back. If your kids are playing in the back, you can see, what's going on in the backyard, obviously with it being such a traveled street.
Kids.
Yeah.
So from my perspective here, we have a couple of numbers that need to be corrected that, Rick pointed out. I would like in the record, as this thing goes to completion of our vote and everything, before I forget, I thought I'd mention it now, that those square footages and front yard right-of-way distance be in the plan that's part of the record, and have it accurate as to what it actually is. It's, in other words, it's not an 1894 square foot, it's some significantly smaller number and so on. Does that make sense?
The 1894 and the coverage is the only inaccuracy. The thing about the frontage was just a misstatement by James.
Okay,
And since the inaccurately estimated coverage doesn't exceed our coverage maximum, it's not really part of the hearing.
right. But just to, clean up the
Yeah,
odds and ends.
We'll have a corrected page.
Good.
For the records.
Excellent. So I think we're under control unless we have more questions from the folks on the zoning board. So shall we close the public hearing to deliberate, or should we just deliberate? I need a motion if we're going to do something. Leslie, any thoughts?
I just came out of a meeting. Say it again and I'll say it.
If we're done asking questions and gathering information, should we close the public hearing so we can deliberate?
Okay, I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we can deliberate. So on the variance to allow that encroachment from approximately 9 feet down to 8.7 feet. What are your thoughts? No thoughts? Do we approve,
I don't see
disapprove?
an issue. I don't see an issue.
I
would
I
think-
learned the term years ago about small numbers like this.
De
And
minimis.
there you go. You remember that word too,
From-
Minimis?
yes.
de minimis.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And so the question is extending the side yard setback encroachment from about 9 feet at that old back corner to the 8.7 feet that it is now looks to me like a de minimis event.
Mhm.
And so we can simply approve that straight away
Mhm.
with the appropriate caveats as Bill likes to put into his staff report.
And that is section 1, right? I mean, that's the first one, the variance.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a criteria that's guided by statute in section 3 of your staff report. And it's basically that the board has determined that each of the 3 existence conditions exist.
Mhm.
So if we are in agreement, I need somebody to phrase that motion to do something with the variance.
All right, I'll take a shot at it. No. I make a motion to grant a variance per section 5 for non-conforming uses and structures of the zoning bylaws to grant relief to the existing non-compliant section of the structure, the side yard setback, given that the permit granting authority finds that, geez, Louise, I think I'm not looking at the right thing here. But the literal enforcement of the provisions of the by law would, not granting it would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. That that granting it would not cause substantial detriment to the public good, or derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. And God, why doesn't the first one make sense to me? That it.
Well,
What
well,
about
so
the owing to the circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape and topography? That has nothing to do with this because it's a flat lot.
such land or structures?
Such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. But I didn't actually say anything there.
There is a uniqueness to the lot owing to the angle of the sideline as it
Okay.
goes back into the lot.
Okay, so that we should grant owing to the circumstances of the sidelines of the,
Yeah, I think you've got the gist of it in there somewhere.
yes, I
Bill-
can't
Bill's-
find the words.
Bill can wordsmith it so it comes out,
I think I got it.
straightforward. So based on all that, do we have a second?
Yeah, I second.
All right. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right, so I think that was unanimous, right? Paige, did I hear from you?
Yep.
Okay, so that was unanimous. Now, the second item here is the special permit to put the second story on, if I can, to allow reconstruction, alteration of the structure, to allow a second floor construction. And again, we want a special permit, and we want to acknowledge, as Rick commented on, we want to acknowledge the variance for the back corner of that building on this as well. So who wants to do a special permit for this? Who wants to?
Leslie,
Make a
your
motion.
standard on this is that it's no
Okay.
more detrimental than the existing.
okay, so I make a motion to grant the special permit per section 5 of the zoning bylaw to allow the reconstruction and alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming lot that will allow the construction of a second floor to the existing one-story dwelling, and allowed because it does not, doesn't cause further detriment to the neighborhood.
It sounds pretty good. Do we have a second?
Second.
I can,
All right, everybody seconded.
Who was the second? Who was the second?
John, you can have that one.
John?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll
Okay.
get Paige the next one.
So all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. So that again was unanimous. So the timeline, I get confused on when what happens, Bill. So if you could describe to James, oh, do we have to bring the meeting back into a session?
No, you
Or-
closed the public hearing. You
Yeah.
had your deliberations, you had your vote. The only
Yeah.
thing to be, you're gonna close the hearing when you're done. That's it.
Well, don't we want to tell James
Oh,
when
yeah.
what happens?
Sure we do.
Oh, keep him in suspense.
You want me to give my little
Yeah.
bite? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, James, the way this works, this decision will be very careful with it because but Rick will help me with this one because it's not what we normally do. It's a little more technical, but we'll get it done pretty quick. Once we do, I will have the chair request he sign the decision. The decision will go to the clerk, the town clerk, which is in upstairs. They will hold on to it for 20 days for an appeal period. What we do in the meantime is we send a note to the abutters and see if there's any issues with the decision that was issued. And if there's not, 20 days, you go to the clerk and they will give you a certificate of no appeal. And it will be, it'll say something to that effect on the decision. They'll give you a copy. You'll go to the registry of deeds, which I think you could do online now, I believe. But you'll get it recorded so that there's a record of this. And if there was a project that we wanted to have a record of, this would be it. So we're going to get that recorded, and then they will give you a receipt that says it was recorded. And then you go to Rick, and Rick will probably require that it's recorded before he issues a permit. And then you're off to the races.
Excellent.
So give me a, we usually get it drafted up in a couple of days usually. So.
Thank you
And-
for everybody's time this evening.
No
Plant
problem.
some trees.
Yeah, trees are good. Trees are good.
I'm not cutting any trees.
Good, yay.
It's
All right.
been fun. Have a good evening.
Thank you
Rick,
for
for your
everyone's
help.
time.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye.
And that's all we have tonight, Mr. Chair.
You don't have anything to share with us?
Well, because I know we were all on the home occupation
Yeah.
form. I think we were all there. That was pretty good. Other than that, I have a couple of odds and ends that are just good, little good news stuff. We got a couple of really nice grants in the last 2 weeks, so we will be lighting the River Street lot, which has been a big headache because if you remember, the River Street lot was purchased with the idea that it would provide additional spillover parking for some of the projects that we permitted on Main Street.
Mhm.
But people were reporting that they were uncomfortable using it at night because it was dark and it kind of seemed isolated. So we got a grant, and they were doing some improvements in there, and one of them will be lighting. There'll be also a guardrail so people don't accidentally drive into the river, which would be nice. We're trying to preserve our people. And so believe it or not, that was $100,000. So we got for that. So that was a good thing.
Are
And-
the,
What was that, Leslie?
are the lights, really environmentally sound, so they're not,
Yes. Now remember, these are all, our lighting is dark sky compliant.
good, okay.
And where, there were some questions about should it be on or off when people walk there or not, but the security, no. But just FYI, all the lighting that we permit, it has to be dark sky compliant. The planning board has adopted that in there. So you can't have anything that's not now, as of last year. So dark sky compliant for anything new.
Last
um,
year, As in like Parker Street?
Parker
That's a
Street was,
nightmare.
well, it's like.
Yeah.
So you
Stop.
said you had multiple things. This grant for the parking lot was one. Is there anything else exciting out there?
Yep. I mean, it's not as, yeah, it's pretty good. I think, we got, a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council last week for, about, 7,000 plus. And that is to provide some, website improvements to better feature Maynard's, cultural events, which is pretty good. That was a really nice, grant that we got. And we have just written, we haven't gotten it, but we just submitted a new grant for the second phase of Powder Mill Corridor analysis. And the purpose of that is to craft appropriate zoning for Powder Mill Road that's consistent and goes along with the master plan vision. So that's what I got.
So on all these grants that you're getting, what
Yeah.
about sidewalks?
We got, well, we did get some sidewalk grants. I don't know. Justin got a complete streets grant for, I want to say, it was almost $500,000, I think.
Because, you know, my personal beef is Concord Street is terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. And
I mean,
and
we take our life in our hands to go to the rail trail
yes,
because Concord Street to the rail trail is non-existent.
it's got to be improved.
And
Part of the newest complete streets grant, I know it goes from the golf course, which is the Council on Aging as well, into the rail trail. There's a new sidewalk going in there. And there are some other sidewalk improvements that are going to be funded by the last grant. And that they got that in the last month or so. We've been lucky with grants. Maybe we're working hard trying to get them, but I'm glad that we're finally getting our share of it. But you're right, the rail trail is, and Julia, our new, I think you all met her on the last, I can't remember if she came to the last meeting or not, but Julia's the new conservation agent, assistant planner, and is in charge of all things rail trail and cycling and pedestrian things and all, and she's a resident who lives right there on the rail trail and is very in tune with it. She's going to be a terrific addition for that, and she's all over it and really has some ideas and some passion to get some of these grants and use them creatively to improve the experience for non-motorized vehicles.
So maybe she's the one I ought to invite over and show her how dangerous Concord Street is for people.
I think it wouldn't hurt. I'd be happy to come too. When she just got married, and she's back in town Thursday. So maybe next week or something you call. I'd be happy to go too.
Yeah, because besides just, you know, the irregular surface and not having a sidewalk near the rail trail to get to the rail trail,
Yeah.
the street runoff goes down my driveway.
Guys.
Oh, it's
So
up
so
close and
I
personal.
made a berm to try to slow it down.
Oh. Well, then that also should be DPW on that one.
Yeah, well, that's all sidewalk stuff because the
Yeah.
sidewalk is lower than the road.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. If you give us a shout, I'll come over with Julia, and we'll probably need to get Justin out there too. But let us go take a peep at it first, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, that sounds great. So when, next week, what time, what day?
Let's touch base on email, and I'll look at the schedules, but pretty much next week I'm in until Thursday, so pretty much any day except Thursday. Well, actually, you can do Thursday. And then afterwards, I will be in California, so can't get me.
Ah, we can still get you because electronics go everywhere.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well.
So I think that's it for the meeting. I need another motion.
Okay, I make a motion to close the, I don't know, the public part of the
Well, the
meeting.
zoning board meeting, I guess.
Close the zoning board meeting.
So do we get a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Okay, aye.
aye.
Aye. All right. So we're done. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Good
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.
Yep,
Thanks.
bye-bye.
Bye.